It's so nice for an old guy like me to get a whoop, you know, it never happens, you know. Welcome everyone to the 2022 Dodge Poetry Festival, yes. My name is John Schreiber, I'm the CEO of the Arts Center, and we are so happy that you are here in person to share your love of the written word and the spoken word with us and with each other. The Dodge Poetry Festival is the largest festival of poetry in North America, and we are proud that it has been held here at NJPAC and throughout Newark since 2010. And every 2 years I look forward to this marvelous celebration. And this year is especially special. We missed seeing all of you in 2020. Yes. We were home, remember? Yeah. I think we can all agree that Zooms are great. They really come in handy when we need them, but there's no technology yet devised that quite captures the electricity of gathering together in one room to witness a live performance, and especially poetry, right? Yeah, it's true. Like poetry, what's missing from a virtual event is easy to feel, but very hard to define. And whatever it is that we experience when we're listening to someone sharing their work right in front of us, when we're reacting and sensing those around us reacting too, all at the same time, that's its own special magic. And I'm thrilled that we can conjure it again now over 4 full days of readings, conversations, workshops, performances, and more here at the Arts Center and in venues across our city. For me, the most exciting part of the Dodge Poetry Festival are these first few days with their focus on teachers, you all, many of you, and on students. At this year's festival, we'll welcome 3,500 students. Yep. And it is one of my favorite days of the year, favorite days of every 2 years, when we are surrounded by all these amazingly energetic kids who drink in this poetry, each in their own way. And of course, teachers, 500 teachers. How many of you all are teachers? Great. Thank you for sticking with teaching, especially after all we've been through. Anyway, speaking of inspiring young people, I want you to know that the music you've been listening to just now was performed by students of NJPAC's TD Jazz for Teens program. This was one of the first arts training programs established here when NJPAC opened its doors 25 years ago. We are so proud of the talented musicians who've been part of this program, thousands over the years. You just heard 2 of our current students, Alexander Rausch on guitar and Kevin Huang on alto sax, and they're being led by one of our Jazz for Teens alumni, bassist Ben Rubens. Thank them. Oh, they'll be back, yeah. Ben not only graduated from our program, he's also a graduate of Manhattan School of Music and is currently performing as the bassist with the Johnny O'Neill Trio, one of the great jazz pianists. Yeah, we want to thank them. So you'll hear from them later, but before we begin today's program, which features the likes of Sandra Cisneros, Sharon Olds, Willie Perdomo, and one of my personal favorites, our Mayor Baraka, I wanted to just thank you all for coming, and please join me in welcoming the leader of the Geraldine R. Dodge Foundation, its president and CEO, Tanuja Daney. Here she comes.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the 19th Biennial Geraldine R. Dodge Poetry Festival, and our 6th in the great city of Newark. I'm Tanuja Daney, President and CEO of the Geraldine R. Dodge Foundation, which produces this great festival. We missed being here in 2020, but our virtual festival reached all 50 states and 63 countries, so we were with you in spirit and on the internet. Right now, we are streaming all over the world, So join me in saying hello to the global poetry community. You're out there, hello. But let's also take a moment of silence for all those who did not make it through the last 2 difficult years and can't be here with us tonight. And let's take a moment of gratitude that we can be here together, because this is what poetry does best. It brings us together to listen to each other. The late, great Lucille Clifton, who was invited to the Dodge Festival more times than any other poet, said from one of our stages, yes, that poetry is a house with many rooms. I might not want to spend time in your room, and you might not want to visit mine, but we all know we are welcome under the same roof, where there is room for all of us. So welcome everyone under the large roof of the Geraldine R. Dodge Poetry Festival. So a little side note, this is my first time on the big stage here at NJPAC, so thank you for having me. So I'm a little bit nervous. So, but first, we have many, many, many people to thank, too many to name, and they're listed in your program. We have to thank the Dodge Foundation Board of Trustees, who have supported poetry and sponsored this festival since 1986. And thank you to the Dodge Foundation staff, especially the poetry team led by Festival Director Martin Farrowell. Yes. We have to thank our partners, the New Jersey Performing Arts Center and its amazing staff and volunteer corps, many of whom you have never seen because they're backstage and working behind the scenes. The staffs and volunteers at Trinity and St. Philip's Cathedral, the Newark Museum, the New Jersey Historical Society, St. Patrick's Pro Cathedral, Rutgers University, especially Chancellor Nancy Cantor, who so generously donated the Rutgers wheelchair accessible shuttles that you'll see circling the festival site throughout the day. And we must thank the Newark Police Department, who are out front right now and who will be on the streets directing traffic and keeping us safe every day. And the city of Newark, the festival's home, and its mayor, Ras Baraka, who is not only the mayor of this great city and a member of Newark's poetry royalty, but our first poet of the evening. Yeah. And after the mayor, the festival poets listed in your program for tonight's opening celebration will each read in alphabetical order. There will be a brief intermission. So now, please help me welcome Mayor Ras Baraka. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Welcome Dodge Poetry Festival. Once again, glad to be in person, that's for sure. And so I'm going to read one poem for you this evening. Some of you may have heard it before. It's called What We Want. We want to love ourselves freely, unfettered images of our grandmothers in our dreams. We want to praise our own God. And we want to see his reflection in our children's eyes. We want to draw them blue like jazz with long dreads and thick lips. We want music every day, and especially on Sunday. We want dancing to be a prerequisite for success. We want the blues, jazz, funk, rock, soul, hip-hop, R&B, and the wealth created from it to be our baby's inheritance. And we want it taught in every elementary school all over the world. We want to speak for ourselves. Yeah, we want to speak for ourselves. We don't want handouts. We just want everything we created and everything that was created as a result of what we created, and we want it with interest. We need a guaranteed income for all. Education like fresh air and food and water and shelter, and be free from sickness and disease. We need long life to collectively oppose death and stagnation. We need ideas and imagination. We should be against the hoods like the sheeted white ones, the ones that take and keep taking from the meek and often defenseless, even the glorified trap. Yeah, we against the trap too. We need our skies free from poison to be able to breathe in sunshine and feel the wind on our faces. We need an end to war and oppression. We need the people to own their own labor. We need every country industry in every corner, in every country developed, in every community empowered. We need to turn it all right side up. We need the raw materials from the earth used to end poverty anywhere it exists. We need the calluses on our hands and the pain in our lower back to be added to our savings. Yeah, we need health care to be free and information to be free and ideas to be free and the news to be free. Yeah, and the people, they got to be free too. Yeah, we need the people to be free. We need to end the slavery in all forms and into exploitation, and we need all the money in all the banks in every part of the world to be used for our collective benefit. Yeah, we need all the money in all the banks in every part of the world to be used for our collective benefit. We need to outlaw lies and teach the people's history in all languages from the viewpoint of all of us, not just some of us. We need to allow everyone to vote. Yeah, we need to allow everyone to vote and be represented no matter what language they speak, what religion they practice, what color of their skin. Dismantle the Electoral College. Yeah, we need to dismantle the Electoral College and make white supremacy and racism illegal. We need to ban the Confederate flag and label every monument to genocide with a red letter, or just plain tear them down and replace them with statues of black and brown women that carried us through the darkest moments of history. We need to destroy all nuclear weapons, but first start with automatic rifles. We need to replace the war on drugs with a war on ignorance. We need to destroy the pipeline, the cages, and use the savings to develop the human spirit to treat illness, social, mental, and physical. We need freedom, not just the Bill of Rights, but the right to build our own lives, to be free from destituteness and hatred and hungry children, from sicknesses with cures and underdevelopment and cold winter nights with no heat, free from losing our land, our block, our community, our homes, free from choking to death in our own backyard and schools that undermine our self-esteem, and free from praising those that lynched us. Yeah, we need to be free from praising those that lynched us, and free to pray in any language and to anyone we choose, free to be free how we define it. Yeah, free to be free how we define it, and free enough to know that the world is made up of all of us, not just some of us, and that only when all of us are free, none of us will be, and that our collective existence is tied directly to our individual existence. Yeah, coexistence with ourselves, one big we, one big outrageous we. This is what we want and what we need. This is what we want and what we need, and what we need and what we want and what we need, and want and what and need and what and need and need and want and what and need, and we need it now in this very moment, in the now and the forever, and the now and the forever, and the forever now, and the now and the forever. We need it now and forever, and the forever now and the forever and the forever, and the now and the forever, and the now and the forever, and the forever now. Yeah, we need it. We need it like a shower all over our body. Yeah, like a shower all over our body, like sunshine kissing our faces. Yeah, like sunshine kissing our faces. God bless you.
Mayor Ras Baraka. What a different country this would be if we had more mayors who were poets. Please help me welcome Kim Adonisio.
Well, our first introducer said a lot of thank yous I was going to say, so I'm glad she was there to do that. But I want to say that, and thanks to the signer, because I love seeing them sign. They're amazing. Roz and I weirdly have something in common. Some of you who have been here a while might recognize the Ad Initio name, because one of my relatives was the crooked mayor of Newark, New Jersey, Hugh Ad Initio. Feel free to boo. And that's how I learned that my name was not Addie, which was the name I grew up with, but Ad Initio, which I took back. And not because of Hugh, but that was an education. And I have to say that going from Hugh Ad Initio as the mayor of Newark to Ras Baraka, that is progress. So, you know, we are happening. I'm going to read two poems. First one is about Italy. It's called In Assisi. This souvenir shop is full of skinny wooden crucified Christs, like there weren't enough of those in the churches already. I guess everyone has to believe in something. Crystals, colonics. When you die, you get virgins or your very own planet, where you can spin for eternity in your celestial underpants. Some people believe Jesus spoke to St. Francis, but I have a feeling Jesus is just going to hang there silently, looking holy and tormented for another 2,000 years or so. I don't think I'm going to get a Catholic miracle, like a statue blinks at me and I suddenly understand Italian, Greek, Latin, Aramaic, and Ugaritic, or peel off my tattoos and send the carved lions of my higher self to tear apart the lambs of my addictions. I'll probably just go on kneeling before minibars and hotel rooms in my silk robe of flowers, praising the macadamias. One story about St. Francis is that 2 years ago, before he died, he got stigmata, probably malaria or leprosy, but imagine those sores. He dressed in a mended sack and old worn sandals. If you saw him in Berkeley, you might cross the street to avoid him, then come back with some change and try not to touch his hand. At the end of his life, he was going blind, living in a reed hut overrun by mice slithering over his feet, mice climbing the table to sit on his plate. I guess they figured out that the job of a saint is to suffer as horribly as possible. Joan of Arc burned and cast into the Seine, St. Agnes raped and stabbed in the throat, Oliver Plunkett, imprisoned, hanged, drawn and quartered, beheaded, beatified, canonized. Brother, son, sister-in-law, death, forgive me. I don't see the point of all this pain or believing it gets better when you're boxed and delivered to the parade of microbes that will devour your corpse. I know my soul is small. It just wants a decent hotel room, and the man who lies down to sleep so trustingly beside me to open his eyes and love me. And the second one is I did a BBC radio show recently called California Burning, and we went and spent the night in a fire tower in the Sequoias, and they asked me to write a poem for the show, so I wrote this piece. And all you need to know is that there's an allusion, I love that word, to The Ring Cycle by Wagner, which I have never heard, but all I know is that it's really long and everybody dies at the end. So this is called Exit Opera. The shield maiden waits in the wings. The opera goers wait, shifting in their seats. Out in the forest, the ember waits in its cigarette to make its black mark on the world, not content to ravage a few rolled tobacco leaves. It wants to show it can murder more trees than the last bitter fire. In the sequoia grove, in record heat, tourists wait for a chance to stand inside an enormous burn-hollowed tree, while the bark waits the years it takes to grow over the scar. Legions of charred trees, legions of kids clambering over rocks. In the troposphere, the next giant pyrocumulonimbus clouds waits to be born from its gassy parents. Once the opera's begun, you must wait for what feels like eons for Brunhilde to deliver her aria as she throws herself on the funeral pyre and everyone goes up in flames. Once you escape a wildfire, leaving everything behind, a little void appears beneath your heart and lodges in your ribs. Again, you must wait. If you see lightning, listen for the thunder to tell you how far or near you are. When Milton went blind, he felt useless, but then he decided it was okay to stand still, to abide. Look at the trees, who are patient, who suffer us to touch them. Thank you.
Kim Adonisio. Our next poet is Ellen Bass.
Thank you, everyone, for being here. And I won't try and name everyone, but just thanks to everyone who makes this possible. I'm going to read one poem. This is one that I wrote early in the pandemic. It's called "During the Pandemic, I Listened to the July 26, 1965 Juan Lepin recording of Love Supreme." The first familiar, know them anywhere notes bless me this savage morning. Coltrane's horn racing up and down every alley, in and out of veins and over the faces of lakes and into the heart of stones. And when he repeats a love supreme again and again, it's as though if he says it enough, he can ease that mercy down into me, into the tiny acicular chain, the chemical rush, the spark, and my brain getting it, if even just for this 32 minutes and 48 seconds. My daughter's been sick 7 weeks with the virus. Yesterday, she felt a little bored, she texted, and I grabbed that like a shopping cart. I loaded up with hope. Make it prayer. When the day's portion of the Torah is recited, someone stands by to correct mistakes. The words must vibrate precisely in the air. So I open my door to the breath of his instrument that refuses nothing, lavishing the grass, gutters, and trees, concrete, cars, the gopher pulling down the new lettuces. This generous sound that can mean anything, nothing, whatever you need. And isn't that God? Isn't that it? This shivering, this fall to my knees. Gods do walk among us, but humans are, after all, a broken promise. And yet, these humans seem to be trying to enter what? I can almost hear it. This old planet. Worms passing Earth through their tissue, orchids, corn, mockingbirds throwing themselves into song like there's no tomorrow, which there may not be. Yet, still a mountain, still wind, and Coltrane still offering the same 4 notes, like a teacher who is infinitely patient. He's telling me it's worth it to be in a body. He's telling me I'm alive in a beach town in California, and my daughter in a high-rise in Vancouver, my girl lying feverish on the couch she's been lying on, 49 days and 49 nights, still alive.
Ellen Bass. So we were worried for weeks leading into this festival that all the delays in flights was going to cause all kinds of catastrophes with poets not being able to get here on time. We were so overly cautious that we had a lucky mistake to our benefit. We have a poet who arrived earlier than we thought. Jan Beatty is here tonight, and she's going to read next. Please welcome Jan Beatty.
Hi, everybody. Yeah, it's not the first time I was called a lucky mistake. I'll take it, it's good, it's good. So happy to be here and with all these wonderful poets and with you. So sometimes I'm mistaken for a man, which is okay. This is called Crushing It. Halloween. The pizza delivery girl said, "Are you dressed like a trucker?" "No," I said, "I'm supposed to be a Western woman writer." "Oh," she said, I like it. Someone else thought I was Eddie Vedder, someone else, Tommy Morello from Rage Against the Machine. Maybe it was the ball-cap flannel, but I was shooting for Pam Houston, dreaming of Wyoming and the Bighorns. Like when the cab driver in Dublin said, "You look exactly like Anastasia. She's a singer, she's beautiful, except she has long blonde hair." Then I crossed the road and the guy at airport security said, "This way, sir." Once at the makeup counter in Macy's, I asked for some skin cream. The skin specialist stood a foot from my face and said, "I'm sorry, sir, we don't carry that line." Pam Houston, where are you now? I know you like cowboys, but the Bighorns call me daily. It's wide open that I need, where the big road snakes and cattle move so slowly. They won't even call me ma'am, sir, or Neil Young. I'm here in Pittsburgh, crushing on you. So you know that, I'm still with Ellen's beautiful poem here. I'm still in it. So beautiful. And this is not the same, but I'm thinking of that, you know that feeling when someone dies and you can't, it seems impossible. Like they can't, you just think they can't die. Someone you're really close to. And that's what I felt when my father died, and that was 1986. It was a long time ago. And yet, I felt like he never left. I don't know if you know what I mean. I think you do. He's always just been here, and this is his ring. I wear his ring. I just feel like he's here, which is a really good feeling. This is called My Father Disappears into Flowers. The apple tree in the backyard with white waterfall blossoms. My father's body disappearing in his sickness down to 90 pounds, his hat floating on his head. My father falling into the clothes rack, trying to buy smaller pants to fit. He's not gone. The air heavy with waterfall and him vaulting down the front steps in spring. I have one more poem. I used to be a social worker. I was a really bad social worker, and I cried a lot. So I worked at an abortion clinic in Pittsburgh, Allegheny Women's Center, and so I wanted to read this abortion poem, and knowing how under attack women are right now. We're always under attack, but especially now. This is called Hot in the Striped Boy's Heart. It's hot in the loading bridge, hot in the birth canal. It's hot in the striped boy's heart. We're two women driving to DC for an abortion in my beater sea green Le Mans with the sex, drugs, and rock and roll sticker on the bumper. It's hot living in my car with the mattress in the back, the windshield wipers disintegrating. And so it's raining all the way to DC. And my friend is terrified, let it go too long with a guy she loves, but he could care, and she can't face her parents. Borrowed money from the waitresses we work with, saline solution for a second trimester abortion. It's hot in the Silverman's t-shirt I'm still wearing from 6th grade with gold and blue stripes. Hot in the men's store buying my first real shirt with my girlfriend Patty. I was a boy then, not yet a woman, following the sight lines from the silver hood ornaments to the double yellow. Hot in the Pontiac trunk of clothes and boxes and the cheap hotel in Silver Springs for the early morning procedure. Two women in their 20s, out of state for treatment. Hot in this traveling altar, these bodies run amok. Body of light, body of doubles, body of never telling anyone, never seeing her again. Hot in my striped boy's heart in this car dragging home with no talk, still bleeding. Thank you.
Jan Beatty. Our next poet is Gabriel Calvo-Caresi.
Oh my gosh. So wonderful to see you all. This is my first Dodge. Wow. I want to just thank everybody, and I want to thank all the folks who've already helped me. I've been lost a million times today. You're so generous, all of you, and just to be here with so many remarkable poets, just great. Shave. Like the buck I am, I turn my head side to side. I hear the leaves rustle. I shake my head a little, and birds reel round the forest. I am no branch. My head turns to the side. I see out my side eye. The deep pool of the eye sees itself pool in the mirror. I oil myself till I am all a lather. My chest heaves out, so my full heart may abandon the ribs' stockade. Where the bullet would go if the hunter were a good shot, that's where I place the razor. I make my skin taut. I pull my own neck back and to the side. I come for myself. Yes, I was a lady once, but now I take the blade and move it slowly past the jugular, up the ridge of my chin where my short hairs glisten. I was once ashamed. It was a thing I did in private, my own self, my quarry, no more. Look how the doe comes round, and also the doves, and also the wolf who lets me pass. The fox offers me the squirrel's hide to buff myself to shining. There is no such thing except the smoothness of my face. I'm telling you, nothing like a little Mach 3 razor. I read that poem at a high school once, and I was like, I don't know, just like for any of us who wanted to be a boy, who maybe weren't like born in that vessel, if you want to go get a Mach 3 razor, and just, there was silence, and then I think everyone went and got one later. It was great. The sun got all over everything. Over the boys and girls by the pool, over the bougainvillea, which got so hot, my palms stayed warm for minutes after. It made a mess of a day that was supposed to be the worst and lured me outside, so I forgot her death entirely. And also the polar bears scrambling on the ice chips, and also that there was no water in the Golden State. The pool was full and the sun poured across the women's bodies. You had to shade your eyes, or I did. I had to put my hand up to see what they were saying. I know it's no excuse, and I had made a plan to mourn all day and into the evening. I marked it in my book, which seems like something I'd make up in a poem, except this time I actually did it. I wrote, grieve. Because we're all so busy, aren't we? And so broke. I needed to make an appointment with my anguish so I could take my mind off buying groceries that I really couldn't afford. Anyway, I didn't mean to go outside, except there the sky was just ridiculously blue, taunting me with a pigment that I felt the need to name. And from somewhere close by, a voice I couldn't see because the sun was like a yolk cracked over it said, "What are you drinking?" And I said, "I'm grieving." I'm very busy remembering. I made an appointment because last year I forgot and then felt awful. The sun opened its mouth and made a gong of the canyons. It poured across the girls and slicked across their Dior lenses. I put my tongue on it, exactly when I should have been tearing at my clothes and lighting candles. I got on top and let it find the tightness in my back and open where my wings would be. Somewhere my mother was dying and someone was killing a giraffe. And I let it go. I just let it go. Thanks so much for having me here. Hammond B3 organ cistern. The days I don't want to kill myself are extraordinary. Deep bass, all the people in the streets waiting for their high fives and leaping, I mean leaping when they see me. I am the sun-filled god of love, or at least an optimistic undersecretary. There should be a word for it, the days when you wake up and do not want to slit your throat. Money in the bank, enough for an iced green tea every weekday and Saturday and Sunday. It's like being in the armpit of a Hammond B3 organ, just reeks of gratitude and funk, the funk of ages. I am not going to ruin my love's life today. It's like the time I said yes to gray sneakers, but then the salesman said, wait. And there, out of the back room, like the bakery's first biscuits, bright blue kicks, iridescent, like a scarab. Oh, who am I kidding? It was nothing like a scarab. It was like bright blue fucking sneakers. I did not want to die that day. Oh my God, why don't we talk about it? How good it feels. And if you don't know, then you're lucky, but also you poor thing. Bring the band out on the stoop. Let the whole neighborhood hear. Come on, everybody, say it with me nice and slow. No pills, no cliff, no brains on the floor. Bring the bass back. No rope, no hose. Not today, Satan. Every day I wake up with my good fortune and news of my demise. Don't keep it from me. Why don't we have a name for it? Bring the bass back. Bring the band out on the stoop. Hallelujah. Thanks so much.
Gabrielle Cavalcaresi. Our next poet is Marilyn Chin.
So great to be here. I'm wearing my silver jacket just for you. Okay, so I'm going to read some freaking rhymed couplets. All right, some radical formalism here. All right, and I have a refrain that goes, "You go, me stay, 2 autumns." It's a haiku from the famous haiku artist Shiki. Wipe your lipstick off the milk carton. Get off your high horse and wicked palanquin. Dye your ancestral roots, kryptonite day glow. Paint your opposable thumbs, urban decay bonobo. Photobomb a grief group, confess you're happy. Hang upside down off a moonbeam, screech like a banshee. You go, me stay, 2 autumns. You go, me stay, 2 autumns. Donne and Keats, scratching tunes in the kitty litter. Purring poetry and God through a negative ion capacitor. Air hug your biker neighbor, not too tight, she might bite. Rock roses and jasmine bathed in chain link light. Queen bees are hiving beyond meat on the Barbie. Squid ink gnocchi 6 feet away still looks nasty. You've been knocking down mojitos, face-licking boy chicks at the grotto. Aunties decoupling, sending you back to Idaho. You go, me stay, 2 autumns. You go, me stay, 2 autumns. Catch a midge in midair, kiss her skinny lips, let go. A raven attacks my wig. He's Edgar Allan Poe. Twittering in twilight, raptors killing doves. Some singing about inequality, some crooning love. Don't fall for the pool boy, ain't got a pool. Don't fall for the girl boy, can't do ambiguity. But please wear a N95 face mask if you want to see me. You go, me stay, 2 autumns. You go, me stay, 2 autumns. June says, you're too quiet, Mei-Ling. Go shout at a rainbow. Adrienne says, come visit Michelle and me for utopian fish gumbo. Why do I speak to the dead? 'Cause the living are assholes. Fat man, little boy, someone will hit bottom. Why worry about nuclear winter? Our species will be forgotten. You go, me stay, 2 autumns. You go, me stay, 2 autumns. The princess on the left says, you rhyme with rich. The princess on the right says, your poetry is shit. Over 1 million dead, better stay home, you might be next. I'm not funnier than Stevie Smith waving her undies. Not funnier than Margaret Cho. I'm not that bold. Funnier than Aristophanes? The frogs croak, no. You go, me stay, 2 autumns. You go, me stay, 2 autumns. Is that a 19th century Mauser, or are you happy to see me? Don't brag about your viral load. You're a peon amongst peonies. Hating black people, the one is your brother. Hating white people, the one is your mother. Killing racism like killing lice. Bomb it, raid it, will return. Minnesota nice. You go, me stay, 2 autumns. You go, me stay, 2 autumns. Visited Granny Wong in her raised meadow bed, helped her to root erase aubergine drag. She told me this story, sorry, my translation is bad. One day, while shopping at Walmart, a hoodlum grabbed my brocade purse and called me a stupid old chink. I chased him down the parking lot, hooked his ankle with my phoenix claw cane, dragged him home in my flying wheelchair, reciting the Dharma of 6 thieves, steamed some butterfly shrimp dumplings in celestial garlic persimmon cream. He gorged 3 bowls and licked the spoon, then napped in my lazy boy like a prince. I said, I'll call your mother to fetch you. He said, but my mother is dead. Praise the mysterious female, mysterious female. Praise the mysterious female, mysterious female. I met a masked vaquera at the border fair. We line danced to Cupid Shuffle, an achy breaky heart. She loved Selena, Shakira, and cumbia bands. Don't remember much now, but the pony can dance. You go, me stay, 2 autumns. You go, me stay, 2 autumns.
Marilyn Chin. Sandra Cisneros.
It's so nice to be in the country of poetry. Usually when I read, there are children present. Is anyone under 18? I need to know. Yes? No? Sometimes? Are there children? I need to know because I don't want to get in a lawsuit. All right, if you are under 18, you can go in the lobby and play. Like when the scenes would come on in the Mexican movies, my mother would give me 50 cents and make me run. Okay, I gave you your warning. This is from a book called Woman Without Shame, and I'm going to read from a section called Cisneros sin censura. And the only thing you need to know is that in Spanish, when you're looking for your other half, they say you are looking for your media naranja, your half of an orange. And this is called naranja completa. 1. Do I miss having a man enter me, crack me in two, before, after I do not? Truth be told, never. Am Cavafy in love with memory, alive with story. Do I miss the Acapulco rush of the dive into the fire of foam, the plummeting into the sea of myself, profound mystery? I do. Not the wound between my legs, taut as catgut on guitar, an Egyptian tomb winched and looted, relieved to be my own destroyer. I enter my body with a poem slick with my own spit, slide and grunt, a nice, tight fit. 2. In my Taipei dream, I'm holding a penis in my hand, a scepter, a wand, thick as a cop's baton, hefty, warm, pulsing, definitely alive, a thing attached to no one, all my own, a weapon to tap on my palm and ask, now, what do I want with this?
Sandra Cisneros. I think the under 18-year-old crowd will be here tomorrow during the day, so I think we're good. Henri Cole. beach walk. I found a baby shark on the beach. Seagulls had eaten his eyes. His throat was bleeding. Lying on shell and sand, he looked smaller than he was. The ocean had scraped his insides clean. When I poked his stomach, darkness rose up in him like black water. Later, I saw a boy, aroused and elated, beckoning from a dune. Like me, he was alone. Something tumbled between us, not quite emotion. I could see the pink interior flesh of his eyes. I got lost. Where am I? He asked, like a debt owed to death. I was pressing my face to its spear hafts. We fall, we fell, we are falling. Nothing mitigates it. The dark embryo bares its teeth, and we move on. Bowl of lilacs. My lilacs died today, floating in a bowl. All week I watched them pushing away, their pruned heads swollen together into something like anger, making a brief comeback toward the end, as if secretly embalmed. Just before your death, I cut your hair, so when you were laid out, you looked like yourself. Then some men screwed planks over your coffin. I held a towel to my face. Once, in a light-bathed kitchen, naked and blissfully myself, I scrambled us eggs and felt the act of looking and perceiving was no longer something understood from the exterior. It was pure being, saturated and raw as a bowl of lilacs. Keep me. I found a necktie on the street, a handmade silk tie from an Italian designer. Keep me, it pleaded from the trash. There's probably a story it could tell me of calamity days long ago. Then yesterday, tying a Windsor knot around my neck, I heard voices. Why have you got that old tie on? Suddenly Mason, Roy, Jimmy, and Miguel were pulling at my arms like it was the 80s again, a darksome decade with another hard right president. My lips were not yet content with stillness. We were on our way home from a nightclub. I adore you, Miguel moaned, but have to return now. Remember, death ends a life, not a relationship. Thank you. Henri Cole. Kwame Dawes.
That's right. You know, the Jamaican DJs take on very interesting titles. You know what a DJ is, right? Yeah, okay. Admiral Bailey, General Echo. So these days I'm going by Commander Dawes. I'm doing 2 poems. After It Bruises Too. From a drone's peace-loving gaze, above it all, purring its presence, not seeking to startle, the drama enacts itself. 2 bodies walk a mountain road towards one another, appearing and disappearing behind the slopes of the mountains, the bends in the contours of the mountainside, until soon after the squall and the bright light and deep shadow of moving clouds, after an hour or so, they meet without fanfare, pause, and then continue again. From here, I know, as does the machinist thumbing the throttle, that were either to gaze upwards, the sight of this object eyeing them from above would carry the terror of superiority, of the long view, the eye of the poet. And not even love can ease the disquiet of being a small creature moving through the world, slowly from shadow to light. All collapses into the memory of a hawk's mothering in Kingston, diving her scream to my bare head, the dizzying feeling of terror at the far-seeing eye tethering me to the earth. This is the new language of sight, how we watch the destruction of bodies and streets from the bloodless gaze of the drone's eye. How we make a game of our terrors, how we nightmare our ends in the inexorable zooming in of the eye towards the target, towards the tower, towards the factory, towards the church. How these continue on a loop again and numbingly again until all terror is siphoned from our world. I keep returning to this memory of imagining a meeting from so far above, how love, perhaps repeated, can be the new healing. 2 people walking on their pilgrimages and meeting at the point of accidental intersection, pausing, exchanging pleasantries and prayers and blessings, and then moving on, one into light, the other into gloom. Thank you. And here is a short poem. It's an old poem. Old pirates, yes, they rob I, stole I to the merchant ship. Land ho. I cannot speak the languages spoken in that vessel, cannot read the beads promising salvation. I know this only, that when the green of land appeared like light after the horror of this crossing, we straightened our backs and faced the simplicity of new days with flame. I know I have the blood of survivors coursing through my veins. I know the lament of our loss must warm us again and again down in the belly of the whale. And now here in the belly of the whale, where we are still searching for homes, we sing laments so old, so true, and then straighten our backs again. Thank you.
Kwame Dawes. Our next poet is Camille T. Dungy.
So you know. Hi. Oh my goodness. Some quick thank yous, which we've already gotten, but it's been a while now since we've gotten them. So Martin Fellerwell, thank you for steering the ship, and all of the staff and volunteers who helped to make this happen. And these poets with whom I'm sharing the stage, and also all the poets who are sharing their words and vision this weekend. But I also have to just thank all of you in the audience here and online. I believe that people who love poetry make the best people. So you're the best. There you go. I'm going to read two poems, one from Traffic Cascade and one from a new book that's coming in May of 23, which sounds like a long way away. It sounds like the future, but it's just 5 months. Natural history. The rufous hummingbird builds her nest of moss and spider webs and lichen. I held one once, smaller than my palm, but sturdy. I would have told Mrs. Jeffers from Court Street if in those days of constant flights between California and Virginia, I'd wandered into that Oakland museum. Any chance I could, I'd leave my rented house in Lynchburg. I hated the feeling of stuckness that old city's humidity implied. You need to stop running away so much, Mrs. Jeffers would say, when my visits were over and I leaned down to hug her. Why her words come to me, the woman dead for the better part of this new century, while I think of that nest of web and lichen, I cannot rightly say. She had once known my mother's parents, the whole lot of them, even then, in their 20s, must already have been as old as God. They were black. The kind name for them in those days would have been Negroes. And the daily elections called for between their safety and their sanity must have torn even the strongest of them down. Mr. Jeffers had been a laborer, the sort I regret I don't remember. He sat on their front porch all day near his oxygen tank, waving occasionally to passing Buicks and Fords, praising the black walnut that shaded their yard. She would leave the porch sometimes to prepare their meals. I still have her yeast roll recipe, the best I've ever tried. Mostly, though, the same Virginian breeze that encouraged Thomas Jefferson's tomatoes passed warmly through their porch eaves while we listened to the swing chains and no one talked or moved too much at all. Little had changed in that house since 1952. I guess it's no surprise they'd come to mind when I think of that cup of spider webs and moss made softer by the feathers of some long-gone bird. She used to say, I like it right here where I am, in my little house, here, with him. I thought her small-minded. In the winter, I didn't visit very often. Their house was closed up and overheated. Everything smelled of chemical mothballs. She had plastic wrappers on the sofas and chairs. Everyone must have once held someone as old and small and precious as this. Thank you. In her mostly white town, an hour from Rocky Mountain National Park, a Black poet considers centuries of protests against racialized violence. 2 miles into the sky, the snow builds a mountain unto itself. Some drifts can be 30 feet high. Picture a house, then bury it. Plows come from both ends of the road, foot by foot, month by month. This year, they didn't meet in the middle until mid-June. Maybe I'm not expressing this well. Every year, snow erases the highest road. We must start near the bottom and plow toward each other again. Thank you.
Camille T. Dungy, thank you. Nikki Finney had a medical emergency in her family and can't be here this weekend, so we send her our best wishes. Our next poet is Carolyn Forche.
Thank you all for being here. It's lovely to be back at Dodge together in person. I would like to dedicate my first poem to the poet Ilya Kaminsky, who came to the United States as a teenager from Odessa, Ukraine. And this is a poem that arose out of a journey we took together back to Ukraine, his for the first time since exile. It was 20 years ago. Exile, the city of your childhood rises between steppe and sea, wheat and light, white with the dust of cockle shells, stargazers, and bones of pipefish. City of limestone, soft enough to cut with a hatchet, where the sea unfurls and acacias brought by Greeks on their ships turn white in summer. So yes, you remember, this is the city you lost. City of smugglers and violinists, chess players and monkeys, an opera house, a madhouse, a ghost church with wind for its choir, where two things were esteemed, literature and ships, poetry and the sea. If you return now, it will not be as a being visible to others. And when you walk past, it will not be as if a man had passed, but rather as if someone had remembered something long forgotten and wondered why. If you return, your father will be alive to prepare for you his mint cucumber soup or give you the little sweet called bird's milk. And after hours of looking with him for his sandals lost near the sea, you visit again together the amusement park where your ancestors are buried, and then go home to the apartment house built by German prisoners of war to whom your father gave bread, which you remember surprised you. You take the tram to a stop where it is no longer possible to get off, and he walks with you until he vanishes, still holding in his own your invisible hand. The next one is for the late poet Daniel Simcoe, who was a librarian in the New York Public Library, and he was also a translator of Georg Trakl. And he came to stay with us one year in Paris when he was working on the translations. And so this is a poem for him and about translation. And it's dedicated to poets who keep their poems in drawers and to poets who translate other poets. Because Daniel always kept his poems in the drawer. So his book was published after he died. It's called The Arrival. Translation for Daniel. In a cafe near the entrance to the catacombs, you wrote your English versions of poems composed in the voice of a thrush in a cage. Winter trees, plane trees, iron benches, bocce and snow. This is where I found you most afternoons, cigarette lit, stack of books, folded up Le Monde, writing into the past with your oldest pen. Unraveling your script, then rolling it up again. Music turned back into ink on paper. A symphony floating on the table face down. I was a young mother pushing a carriage then, the little one trying to free himself, as he now has done, while behind the glass door of an armoire, armies of paper soldiers fought themselves, bells ringing like stones through clouds, an army of graves upright. How to be still as you were, to keep quiet as one language enters another, leaving everything, all usual worlds behind. Because fog is not the same as violin. Fog is flute, and opera in time of war is still sung to the applause of silence. You wrote like a mole in its tunnel, dreaming of stars. Morning on the island. The lights across the water are the waking city. The water shimmers with imaginary fish. Not far from here lie the bones of conifers washed from the sea and piled by wind. Some mornings I walk upon them, bone to bone, as far as the lighthouse. A strange beetle has eaten most of the trees. It may have come here on the ships playing music in the harbor, or it was always here, a winged jewel, but in the past was kept still by the cold of a winter that no longer comes. There is an owl living in the firs behind us, but he is white, meant to be mistaken for snow, burdening a bough. They say he is the only owl remaining. I hear him at night, listening for the last of the mice, and asking who of no other owl.
Carolyn Forche. We're going to have a brief intermission after our next poet, Forrest Gander.
Thank you, Martin. 2,000 years ago, there was a blossoming of literature in southern India that came to be called Sangam, or convergence. At that time and place, it was considered not only unethical, but impossible to write about personal emotions without referencing the landscape, which is inseparably a part of our felt and perceptual experience. Ecologists today say that we need to reestablish an understanding of that interdependency because we face an unprecedented environmental disaster. California, where I live, shares the same 5 basic landscape types that appear in the Sangam poems. So my 2 poems that I'm reading tonight are influenced by the Sangam tradition, but relocated to California. Wasteland for the town next to mine, Santa Rosa, which has burned twice in the last years due to wildfires caused by global warming. Green spring grass on the hills had cured by June, and by July, gone woolly and brown, it crackled underfoot, desiccated, while within the clamor of live oaks, an infestation of tiny larvae clung to the underleaves, feeding between the veins. Their frass, that fine dandruff of excrement and boring dust, tinkled as it dropped onto dead leaves below the limbs. You could hear it 20 feet away, tinkling. Across the valley on Sugarloaf Ridge, the full moon showed up like a girl doing cartwheels. No one goes on living the life that isn't there. Below a vast column of smoke, heat, flame, and wind, I rose, swaying and tottering on my erratic vortex, extemporizing my own extreme weather, sucking up acres of scorched topsoil and spinning it outward in a burning sleet of filth and embers that catapulted me forward with my mouth open in every direction at once. So I came for you, turning the present into purgatory, because I need to turn everything to tragedy before I can see it, because it must be leavened with remorse for the feeling to rise. And Immigrant C, aroused by her inaccessibility, he aches for more of her life to live inside him, watching the breakers, standing so close he can feel heat coming off her wet scalp. What is his relation to this person before him, so familiar and foreign? The way he searches out her face, he searches out himself. Gusts thrash crests of swell. Spring grasses twirl circles in the sand where they stand without speaking. She wants him to know it's all charged, even grass, positive, pollen, negative. So when grass waves, it sweeps the air for pollen. He feels electricity all around, as though the wild drama of the coming storm were already aware of them, foreigners on this shore. Little sapphire blue flowers speckle the dunes. He wonders if he has let himself flatten out into a depthless sheet like escalator stairs, whether in the end he'll disappear underground without the smallest lurch of resistance. But when her lavish face turns toward him, beaming, the corners of her eyes wind wet, he yields to that excess. He reappears to himself. Thank you.